Okay, welcome everyone to another LinkedIn Labs. We have Kathleen Lord here, but before we do that, everyone tuning in, let us know where you're tuning in from. So if you're in the chat, you let us know where are you at in the world. I would love to hear from you, and I know people are going to slowly trickle in here, so we're not going to start exactly yet. But before we get into how to do outbound, AI, all the things that are probably top of your mind, Kathleen, I'm going to ask you a different question, and I have no idea how you're going to answer this, so I'm very curious.
Neither do I.
What is your favorite candy?
Candy. It's a tie between gummies, especially like Swedish Fish. Those are really good. Or Trader Joe's has the Swimmers version. Those are really amazing.
Oh my gosh. Did you get the sour ones?
I like both. So it depends on my mood that day, either the sour or the regular. But if I'm feeling indulgent, it's dark chocolate sea salt with caramel. Like, the little squares with, like the fancy ones. Both are really good. So it depends on if it's chocolate or just sugar, but who can go wrong with the gummies? And Trader Joe's has just knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, I saw that in Trader Joe's. I think it was 2 months ago, and I was like, "What are these?" And I almost ate the whole bag in one sitting. And I was like, "I
Yeah.
can no longer go to Trader Joe's and get these because it's like
It's a hazard. It's a hazard. It truly is.
Complete hazard and cautionary tale." And I was like, "We cannot do this moving forward. This is not good." So, shout out to that. So I know we got people coming in. Let us know what your candy is. We see that Tamika says Junior Mints. I've actually never had Junior Mints. Have you?
I love Junior Mints. And you know what's really good is Junior Mints mixed with popcorn at the movies. So you take the Junior Mints box and you put it in your popcorn, and then you get that. Milk Duds is good too, but Junior Mints is quite nice at the movie theater with popcorn. Anybody still goes to the movie theater. I don't know if they do or not.
When's the last time you've been?
Last week, because now the movie theater by us has the recliner chairs.
Yeah.
You have the full menu where you can order drinks and food, and they bring it to your seat while you're watching the movie. So it's like dinner and a show all at once.
Okay, yeah, that's the only reason I go to mine. Mine is like a 5-minute walk for me, and like that's the only reason I go is because I can order everything beforehand. It has recliners, and so when I show up, things are already there, and I'm like, great, like makes my life a lot easier.
Awesome. That's awesome.
So shout out to that. Well, let's get into what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah.
And I know that for you, like we met at Sastius, and I'm not going to ask you to do it today, but Kathleen actually did a freestyle for us. You took over the event. At that point, I was like, guys, I don't even want to talk anymore. Like, I was like, I can't even do my talk because now I'm going to be asked to do a freestyle. I was like, I didn't prepare. This wasn't in my notes. But today, what we're going to talk about is human selling in the age of AI and standing out on LinkedIn. So, like, what are you seeing in your inbox right now? And what are you telling your team to stand out?
Yeah. So the interesting thing, and I probably get, depending on the day of the week, 50 to 100 emails and mails every day.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's a lot of noise. And I would say over 75% of those, you can tell, are mostly AI these days. And this shift has, so the good news is, I guess, the shift went from a lot of really poorly written emails and in-mails that people were doing on their own to a lot of too well-written, impersonal, non-human messages that I can tell that AI has written.
Yep.
And the beauty is somewhere in between there, right? Is you want to be hyper-personalized, you want it well-written, but it can't be non-human. I mean, I don't know. Have you ever gotten I even get it internally where somebody will send me a message and I'm like, okay, why did you write that with AI? How?
I think so. The thing is, like, I don't know how much time you spend in AI. I spend a good amount of time in there. So when you start using it, you see the trends.
Yeah.
You see the things where it's like, okay, yep, I know that's AI immediately. And I feel like maybe some people don't think that people use it to like notice that they use it. And I think a lot of people use it as like a genie and they don't put their input in there first. So it just ends up being like what everyone else is using. And I think that people either one are maybe too lazy and they just want to do that, or two, maybe they don't know, who knows. But yeah, I can definitely tell within seconds, like, yep, this is AI. There was no effort put in here, and here we are.
Yeah, and that's what's interesting. And this is a little bit of my dilemma, and I see the same thing with my reps, and we're working on this, right? I went through this same challenge. Is that we all feel this need now because so much content is being produced. It's sort of like that FOMO, right? Fear of missing out on, well, I'm not getting enough content out there, I'm not being seen. And so the reps and sellers feel like I have to create all this content, I have to be out there. But because we're all using the same AI tools and we're probably all using the same AI prompts,
Yeah.
it all starts to sound the same, right? And that personalization, even though you say personalize it for this industry and this role, it's not personalized for that human.
Right.
And that's where I don't think AI gets there. And so AI isn't necessarily the issue, it's how we're using it. And I think that's where it'd be really interesting to banter that back and forth with you today is really how do we think about using AI to still keep that human element?
Yeah, and I know we got people coming in. Shout out to people from all across the world: Pakistan, Brazil, Nigeria, Manchester. We got a very international audience today. And as you are here and you're tuning in, drop in your questions that you have for Kathleen. And for context, Kathleen, as well, could you tell us about your role in your company as we dive deeper into this, so people understand where you're coming from and how they can apply this to their roles as they take this conversation moving forward?
Sure, absolutely. So, I am Chief Revenue Officer at a company called Zensai out of Denmark. We're a very global company. I am based here in the US, and I have probably 25 years of selling and leading sales teams from B2B business applications to anything from security, finance, HR, sales, marketing, from small businesses up to very large enterprise. A lot in the e-commerce and retail world as well, and working with large distributors, retailers, etc. So I've kind of been there long enough that I've seen it all and done a lot of different things. And through the course of that, you get a sense for what works and what doesn't. I like to call it the pattern recognition. And so, as we go through today, feel free, like any questions are good, and I will draw from that experience to share my input on it. But I will say, in this age of AI, there isn't a playbook yet, right? We're all writing it today. I mean, I think that's the most exciting part about
Hmm.
living in these times is that we're writing the playbook for what it means to sell in the world of in the age of AI.
So let's get into that, because you're saying what 75 or 80% of your messages are AI. So let's get into what can people be doing to stand out, like in your inbox, or maybe you have examples of where people have stood out. And then is there a place for AI, or are you saying, hey, completely get rid of it, don't even think about this right now?
So I'm going to start with this motto that I have, and if you read any of my posts on LinkedIn, you will see this. And we're a firm believer in this at Zensai is that AI is the human superpower. So AI doesn't replace humans, so it shouldn't replace everything that you do, but it is your superpower. And so how do you think about AI as being your superpower? And when you do that, it means that you're still human, it still needs to sound like human, but what you're doing is you're taking AI and helping to make you more efficient, have a deeper understanding, et cetera, of everything you do. So um, if you think about that, if I and I was just on a quarterly business reviews with my account management team before this call, and this was exactly my message to them. I said, it's not about scaling your outreach, it's about deepening your relevance. And what I mean by that is if you are going to reach out and you are going to, whether it's live in person, it's on the phone, it's via an email, if you're going to reach out to them, it needs to be deeply relevant to them. And
Hmm.
so getting that deep relevance and that, whether it's, you know, customer company specificity, the industry specificity, that particular set of problems they're looking to solve, the deeper that is and the more specific it is to them, the better. And so the way in which we can do that at scale is that's how we start to leverage AI to help get the core framework, if you will, of what's important to them, right? And then it's a matter of now how do you take that information
Mm,
and you know say, okay, now if I have this and I know this about my prospect, how can I help them? How can I teach them? How can I inspire that person to engage with me today based on what do I know about them, right? And that's the human to human connection. AI is not going to do that for you, but they're going to serve you up all the insights in order to do that more effectively and to do it faster.
and when you're saying, so what I'm understanding is that like you're saying, hey, look, like when you think about serving up the insights, you really want to look at it on the AI, using it for like research and really figuring out how you can reach out to the person and be relevant. So
Yep.
how you find relevance is through AI. Are there other components you could be looking at to find relevance to reach out to people?
So I think AI, at least in my experience, and I would love to maybe AI will change, or maybe I have something I need to learn, but AI is really great for learning about non-people things. So industries, companies, tech stacks, systems, those things, right? They're going to be really great at that. I have not seen AI being really great at telling me like who is Morgan? Like
Hmm.
what does he like? What does he not like? Like they're not very good at telling you the human aspects of it. And at the end of the day, we know who do people buy from, right? People.
Yeah.
And so that's where I think if you leverage AI to help with that, there's still that amount of effort you need to do to say, who is this person? How do they think? What's important to them? How can I connect to them on a human level? Because truly the best sellers are going to be, curious, they're going to be empathetic, they're going to connect with you in a personal way that separates them from the rest of the sellers out there, right? And regardless of what sales methodology that you may believe in or you may use, all of it or all of them are people buy from people,
Mm,
and people need a personal reason or motivation in addition to that business reason for moving forward. And so we in everything that we buy, and I do this all the time, and it just amazes me that I say, okay, I need to get a new TV or I need to get a new car. And I will then come up, and it's a very emotional decision because I just feel I need that.
yep.
And then I'll come up with 5 reasons why I'm rationalizing that purchase, right? And so getting that emotional connection to get them to want to buy from you, then they will rationalize that. And
Yeah.
so it's hard to create that emotional connection and that reaction if you're not connecting with them on a human level. And that's, it's way easier live in person. It's harder on the phone, and it's even harder through a LinkedIn email or InMail. And so that's where, so think about it. If you're purely using generic AI content, how are you going to do that?
That's the question, right? I think a lot of people want to just lean into AI and say this is AI, whatever it is, and go from there. I see a question here from right here of is formatting good or bad? That kind of goes into like they're saying, hey, it could be flagged or made by AI. I think the way you need to think about it is write as a human first and then edit appropriately. I find that the best way, this is more of a content thing, is what they're saying. I'm assuming, like when you're thinking about content, you want to just write it as if you were just writing it to a friend or things of that nature, and
Yeah.
then edit it to make sure it fits the platform. Like you don't want it to be so bad at formatting that it looks like a 2-year-old wrote it. Like you want it to be like somewhat legit, right? So
Yeah.
I would just say like write it as if you are writing it to a friend, and then edit it appropriately and go from there. And you mentioned like all these things that everything's getting harder and harder and harder. So as a sales leader today, and we're looking primarily at LinkedIn,
Yeah.
obviously you can send videos, you can do voice notes, you can comment on certain things, but are there things that you're actually seeing that maybe people should be doing in this moment in time because of AI so they can be more human in their sales approach and be more of a human seller?
Yeah. No, and I think there's a couple of different ways you can do this. And first is that it's a matter of building a personal brand. So you want to have a personal brand that's real. It's not robotic, and it should be unique to you. So it shouldn't be just your company voice or persona, or taking those company posts and reposting them and saying, "Oh, these are great," they're human right those and right. That's not you. So if you want people to connect with you as a seller, you need to find your unique brand and point of view on what you're doing, right? And I think one of the ways in which the humanness stands out in a post is when you bring to whatever your point is that you're trying to get across, or your message, something personal in it. And so people really respond well to stories, and so connecting it to a relevant story of whatever it is. So I'm going to give an example here, and it's going to be a shameless plug for a moment, but one of the things that we're doing as an organization, and it's very personal to me as well, is we are promoting and sponsoring a Danish women's cycling team and their aspirations of getting from sort of the third division to the world stage on the Tour de
Yeah.
France, right? And the reason we're doing that is because we're promoting this concept of human success. And what does it take to bring the best version of yourself to work every day, to your life every day? And what's that look like? And we're taking this concept of human success
Yeah.
and applying it to, it's the same parallels in business. So the same way you need to have a team, you need to have metrics, you need to be able to support each other, et cetera. And so drawing the parallels from a very human success centric story to how you then grow and scale your business. And so bringing those human elements in, and then people really respond to that in a positive way. Like, I look at those posts and the impressions I get and the engagement versus just, saying, "Hey, this is my thoughts on high performance teams and metrics and blah, blah, blah," right?
Yeah.
So when you can bring it into that human element, it makes all the difference there.
So I want to unpack something there, because I find that most people that I work with are going their sales team, help them say, hey, not only we need to do outbound, just book meetings on LinkedIn, your teams, your sellers should create content. And the pushback I typically get is if they aren't selling to a marketing and sales persona, they're like, my buyer doesn't live here. I don't need to build a brand on LinkedIn. This is a waste of time. Like, obviously the people you go after are not marketing and sales professionals, and you're an advocate for it, and you're leading a large organization. So
Yeah.
for the sellers that are out there, because I mean, sometimes they don't listen to me, Kathleen. So I don't know. So for the sellers that are out there, like, what would you tell them? Why should they create a brand? Maybe they'll listen to you, because
Yeah.
when I tell them, they're like, that's crazy, Morgan. That doesn't make sense. And then Tamika, we'll get to your question as well.
Yeah. No, so the whole reason you want a brand is, and whether you're I mean, I'm not on LinkedIn every day. I just don't, I'm not, I go on it in the morning and I go on it at night, but I'm not there all day long. But
Can
I
you
will
pause?
find.
This is something
Yeah,
interesting you said.
yeah.
You're not on there often, but you do go on there morning and afternoon. Now, I'm just actually curious.
Yeah.
Is it like early in the morning, and then when in the afternoon are you getting on?
So for me, it depends on what time zone I'm in, but it is generally very early in the morning. So I was on at 5 a.m. this morning because I'm in Pacific time zone, and my meeting started at 6:30. Um, but normally it's somewhere between, say, 5 and 7:30,
Yeah.
depending on time zone. In the evenings, it's generally after dinner, and I will browse through to see what's happening and what's going on, and, what my network has posted for the day. So I generally don't have time during the core part of the day to get in there. And that is inclusive of not just, trolling my news feed, but it's also what emails did I get today, who's reaching out to join my network, what's happening, etc.
Yep.
Um, so just because I'm not there all day every day doesn't mean that it's not a great way to reach out to me.
No, I just want to provide that context and we
Yeah.
continue on, because we've had conversations on the LinkedIn Labs about when to send and one things of that nature. And I tell people, like, if you're trying to reach out to an executive, which you just walked through what you just said, you're probably going to have to reach out to them super early or in the evening.
Yeah.
So just what you walk through, and I want everyone to understand that. But continue on to your point.
Yeah. Now, see, you distracted me with that question, Morgan, and I don't remember what my point.
I know where we're at. So you were saying, I asked the question. This was an important contextual point because everybody always asks this question. But what I was asking was, hey, I'm a seller. I want to create content and build a brand.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
But I don't reach out to marketing sales professionals, and they're not online, and this is a waste of time for me.
Yeah, no, great point. And so what I have found, and this is why it's even more important to have a personal brand and content that is human, that gets people's attention and gets them to engage, is because they're not on all day. And so when they get on, they have a bunch of stuff that they're likely going through because everyone else is reaching out to them too, right? So if I bring up my messages and LinkedIn and I say, okay, gosh, I haven't been on all day since this morning, and I've got some a full page or sometimes 2 pages of messages, which one of those are going to stand out, and how do I get that done? And so the way those are going to do it, that if you go in and you look at your messages and you see those, you get a couple of lines for each of them, or depending on if people get email alerts when their messages come in, etc. It's got to be something compelling. And like, I'll generally click through each of them, and if it looks like it's AI, I'm not going to do it. If it looks generic, I'm not even going to read it. If they say something right up front that catches my attention, I'm going to click through and at least read it. And so thinking about that and having that human element of it that's very personalized in that first sentence is so critical. And because people aren't on it all day, you got to get in. They're going through a bunch of those things they're getting. And so how do you quickly stand out with that?
So it sounds like for you, it's like, even if, and I see people's questions coming, and we're going to answer that. Even if let's say your buyers aren't on like every single minute of the day, the content is important because at some point they probably will log on. They might be able to see your content. And now when you reach out with something relevant, it's going to click faster. Your response will be faster than if you were doing nothing at all.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And this is the other aspect of it. And I think people forget about this aspect sometimes too, is so if you're trying to, so the salespeople that make it through my virtual door, if you will, to sell me something, is they have that personal brand. They've reached out, and I probably didn't actually respond to their email, but that's okay, because what they're also doing is they're following me, they're connecting with me, they're looking at my posts, they're commenting with relevant content on my posts.
Mm-hmm.
So now all of a sudden it's like, because I'm looking through to see who commented on my post and engaging back and that sort of thing. I've now got an awareness, well, who is this John Smith guy that is, he sent me an email, he's engaging with my content, he's providing a point of view. Now I may actually go back and go, oh, John's trying to talk to me about XYZ. Maybe I'm going to engage with him. And so it starts to create this, it reinforces your brand and persona. If you don't have one of those and you're relying on the one email you sent me to catch my attention, that's probably not it. And AI isn't going to engage in a authentic and curious way with my content either, right? And so that's where it's not just an in-mail game, it's the whole engagement across the platform, and whether that's, comments, video, and voice is another great way of humanizing it, right? As opposed to just written content. I'm not a big fan of getting those because I never feel like I'm never in a place where I have headphones on and I want to listen to it. So I'm usually multitasking. So
Yeah.
I don't listen to those, but a lot of people do, and they'd rather have that than read it. So also realizing that depending on who you're trying to reach and their preferences, they may prefer the video, they may prefer the voice, or they may prefer a quick written communication.
Yeah, that's why I always recommend to people that the most human thing you can do is video. But to your point, you may not be in the place to do that. I don't know. You might have lost your AirPods. Who knows, right? So the thing I always like to call out is look at the 3 ones, which is like voice note, videos, and a written message. Now, I want to get a little contextual, and then we'll answer this question from Tamika because it kind of goes into the point we're talking about right now, which is when you get a written message, like you mentioned relevancy, you mentioned do show that you know them, but how long or short would you like to be? Is it like, hey, 2 sentences, get to the point? Are you looking for a novel? Like, I don't know. Like, what are you looking for when you
Great question. So, and it's for, and I think there's definitely a preference for folks, but for me, it's always been, and regardless of what medium it is, so you need to be thoughtful about what is the format of the communication medium. And so on LinkedIn, like the amount of real estate you have for that message is pretty small, right?
Yeah.
So if I have to scroll, I'm probably not going to, unless you've really compelled me in that first screen. So whatever the screen is, and for me, I'm generally on LinkedIn on my phone. And okay, like the iPhone screen, which is what I use, like has gotten bigger, but it's still pretty small. So if I'm having to scroll through your message, my eyes glaze over and I move on. Takes
Yep.
too much of my mental energy unless you've really compelled me in some way. But for first message, it needs to be short, single screen. So if you can fit, depending on formatting, if you can fit probably 4 to 5 sentences in there at the most.
Okay. All right, y'all. You heard it here first. 4 to 5 sentences, or you're out. You're getting deleted. So
Yep.
let's get to the question. Tamika, this is a good question. You're gonna get the air horn of the day. And so, how would you get the seller? This is pretty interesting.
I
How
like
would
it.
you get the seller past their ego, which tends to get in the way of them getting to slow down to find their unique perspective? And that unique perspective could be sending a cold DM or even content. So from you, like, how do people get past their ego to do the things that you're telling them to do?
Yeah. So what I've found with sales organizations is that, and this is a new concept for a lot of people, right? So I remember the days still of just getting people to use LinkedIn where they were like afraid to have a profile on LinkedIn. And so, that was real though. And
That
so
was real.
even just social media. And so how do you get them to understand that? The way in which you drive that behavioral change is you get your change champions, right? So you're going to find the folks that do believe it, do get it. And I mean, truly, it can be a game changer for building pipeline, for, retaining customers, regardless of what your role is in the sales process. You're going to have greater success if you've built your persona, you have your brand, you're consistently engaging on LinkedIn with the customers or prospects that you want to be selling to, right? And I think when you showcase and you highlight the success of those folks with those techniques, it's a natural human psychology to have the fear of missing out. So why am I not doing that? And so um, the best way to motivate a salesperson is they feel like they're no longer being successful, or number one, what do they got to do to go do that now, right? And so
Yep.
I found, just from a sales team psychology perspective, that's the best way to get people to adopt to a new way of thinking and a new way of working. And yes, that old style rep who's all about just, relationships the way they've always done it in the past, or, following just a generic transactional sale, they're not going to be successful in the new world. I mean, it's changing faster than I think many of us can keep up with it. And if you're not growth minded and you're not willing to try these new things and understand it and listen, you're
Yeah.
going to fall by the wayside.
Yeah. I don't know if it sounds like you may feel this way. I feel like I understand something in AI and I'm like, okay, I have a good understanding. And then some new thing rolls out and it's like, all right, great. Well, I'm behind again. Right. So, but that's why you have to stay on top of it to at least have some level of understanding. So this actually goes right into
Yeah.
Colby's question, which is, what are your thoughts on AI generated images? I try to write all my own posts to make them more organic. But when it comes to images, I'm not proficient in Photoshop or Adobe, nor do I have the time. How can I bring human elements into my AI generated images?
So, I saw that on somebody else's comment that came in. I truly believe one of the things that catches people's attention is personal photos. So there's so many Now, again, you have to be thoughtful about this. I have some colleagues who are amazing at it, but I'm like that parent that always forgets to take pictures, and whether it's myself or my family or whatever, right?
I'm the same way. Like I'm like, Dan, it would have nice if we took photos, and I always forget every
Yeah.
time.
But if you can remember to take the photos and you have the photos, is of it doesn't necessarily have to be exactly what you're talking about, but if you're talking, say, for example, I'm talking about the human success element and the ability to recharge and how that's important, and what you need to make sure you do that for your employees, etc. Maybe it's me on a hike out in the mountains, right? Like with my dog or something like that. That just because people go, oh, what's Kathy doing? She's got, and so it draws them into that. Or it could even be a picture of a place. It doesn't necessarily have to have you in it. Um, and I mean, there's lots of great free real images
Yeah.
on the internet that you can use for no royalties, no fees, of different, whether it's tourist sites, different buildings, places, things going on, that I think capture people's attention, because as great as AI is, it does kind of a crap job with pictures today, in my opinion. I just tried to create some. I mean, they just don't look real, and
They don't.
you don't connect with them, right? Whereas even if it's not people in it and it's a landscape photo, it's something different that AI just can't get yet.
Yeah, I agree. Like if you're going to do it, give it an image, give it your image. If you're trying to do like a cartoon, like there are some times where I'll be
Yes.
like, all right, cartoon Morgan, like let's just test it. And people seem to like that. So we do that sometimes on the team. But for the most part, what I tell people is that like really just focus on like images out in the wild. And maybe because it looks like Kathleen and I always forget, maybe find a friend who likes to take photos so that they remind you. Cause like I have to go with someone out to most places because like I don't remember.
Yeah.
I'm like, that was sick, but we took no photos. No one knows it happened.
Uh, no, for sure, for sure.
Okay, cool. Anybody else have any other questions? Feel free to chime in. But Colby, hope that answered yours. And as people find out what their next question is, I have an additional question on what we talked
Sure.
about. So I know so far we talked about, okay, don't just lead with AI, use it to enhance. When it comes to selling, you're saying, hey,
No.
3 to 4 sentences, make sure you remain human in that, use multiple different ways, video, written, things of that nature. And when you write, it should come from you. So I guess the question becomes, if someone were to come off of this conversation we're having today and you were to suggest them to do 3 things to start using AI as part of their process, what would you suggest them to do so they don't just become the robot and they could use it to enhance what they're doing?
Yep. Yeah. That's a great question, because it really should be an enhancer, not a substitute for the work. And I kind of mentioned this when we were kicking off the discussion, but it all comes down to getting the right, outline, the right script or framework for what you want to talk about. So when you're drafting an outline of a topic you want to do a post on, do the research, get that, lay it out. The 3 things you can then do once you have that to leverage AI is, well, one, do the research. Then two, once you have that draft or that outline, what I've found is super helpful is it will reword it into, and I'm gonna, there's a number of folks out there who are great LinkedIn posts. I'm gonna say one name here, Robin Daniels. He actually has, and if you follow him on LinkedIn, he has uses Delphi, where he's created, basically, I call him Digital Robin, and I will give him my LinkedIn post, put it in there, and it'll spit it out, and it'll organize it and do it in a little bit better way. And so I get that, and I say, great. So I've used AI for research. I've used it to help me reword, maybe so it's a more exciting, logical flow. And then I go for it. The third thing that I do is I have to go through and say, okay, let me review, refine it. It sounds a little too like Robin, not like me, or it sounds a little too robotic. And so, and this is perfect for me because I have a really hard time creating from scratch, but I'm really good at editing, reviewing, refining. And I think this is the skill that a lot of reps may not have yet, that if you help them get comfortable with doing the editing, the reviewing, refining to put in, is it still my point of view? Is it still my voice? Is it sound human? Then you take that great output from AI and you become and make that human. But it's those three stages along the way: the research, helping you organize it, and then applying the human element on top of that.
Colby said, what was that again? Colby, what exactly are you looking for so we can repeat the right thing? And then when you let us know what that is, we can come back to that. But I want to double down. So, of that process that you laid out is exactly what people should do. My additional question, though, is for maybe yourself or what you're telling your team, how much time should a rep spend in AI per day, maybe per month? What should they be doing to educate themselves? Because you said if they weren't, they're going to get absolutely lapped. So we don't want that. So what should they be doing?
No, and so so like you, Maury, I am in. I mean, I have my couple of versions of AI that I use, and they're on my desktop every day, right? And that's the stuff that I know. But every day, to your point, there's new things that come out that I don't know, that or new ways of prompting or whatever it is. So just as a seller, you have to allocate time every week to get better at it. So for me, what I utilize is I say I'm going to allocate an hour a week where I am just educating myself on better, more effective ways to utilize AI. And and that, depending on what your ecosystem is and what you're using, like we happen to be very Microsoft centric ecosystem. We use a lot of Copilot internally for work like stuff. And so I'm looking for what are ways in which I can utilize that for me personally, for my team. And if you don't allocate time to educating yourself on it, it's like any other skill. You're not going to get better at it. You're not going to stay on top of it. And the thing that I love about technology, and I think a lot of people do, is that it's constantly changing. It's innovative. It's exciting. It never gets boring. Well, that's now on like 2x speed,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So,
Okay,
yeah.
so couple of questions to you here in the chat. The
Yeah.
thing that I would also tell people as well is when you're thinking about using AI is think about the most frustrating thing that's taking up the most time and just start talking to AI about it. That's actually I think the best way of doing it because if you're already frustrated by something, AI is going to help you come to that conclusion on what to do better and how to go from there. So just another additional point I want to add. But Kathleen, looks like people have some questions around. Okay, it looks like
Yeah.
Tamika answered it, but the LinkedIn poster was Robin Daniels, I believe that's who it was.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Shout out to
That's who
him.
it
And
was. Yeah.
then Colby's asking, what tool did you mention that you utilized on someone's page?
Oh, so that was Delphi,
Cool. Colby, you
DELPHI.
got that. And then the question here, which
Yeah.
is there a ratio that we should follow about personal and professional content or reposts? And what do you think about reposting your own posts hours later in order to appear to people that follow you across the board?
So personal to professional, I think, you're trying to build a brand and you're trying to build your point of view. As long as so my recommendation is, this is not Snapchat, Instagram, if you're old like me, Facebook, right? It's not one of those, right? So it shouldn't be where you're doing all of your personal stuff. But I think when you can tie what's going on in your personal life and milestones and how those may affect your professional and what you're doing there, I mean, all of those tied together can become a really compelling, genuine voice on LinkedIn. And so I think there's a number of folks out there that do that very successfully. In terms of the repost, I'm not going to proclaim to be anywhere near the expert that Morgan is. And so maybe this is your question, Morgan. But I do know that, reposting your own content in such a short period of time does not necessarily help you. But I think there's once you get an arsenal of LinkedIn posts, like the ability to go back and resurface some of your old content and maybe a new and exciting way or with a new point of view on it, I think is a great way of leveraging your content to be the gift that keeps on giving for you throughout, that, because many of those will become relevant and you can resurface them. Same day, no. There's a whole, maybe this is a shameless plug for you, Morgan, but there's a whole art to knowing, how you best, take advantage of the LinkedIn algorithms and what you should do there. Like I learned, for example, you generally don't want to have more than 4 emojis in your post. I was getting emoji happy. I was like, we're doing an emoji for everything. And
Like,
then I
hold
was
up.
like, yeah. So there are some things there just because it is technology, right? So the, LinkedIn algorithms have been trained to surface and present certain types of content more than others based on these parameters, right? So understanding and managing to those can absolutely up the level of exposure that your post gets.
Yeah.
Sometimes it seems random. And I've seen some posts on that where the ones you think is going to get the most traction doesn't, and the ones that do,
Yeah, I had a post that I wrote like in 10 seconds and it went like viral and I was like, what is going on? I was like, and then there's posts that spend hours on and it does nothing. And I'm like, okay. So it's just part of the game. But I will say, to answer this question on the repost, the repost and the way you want to think about them is that if you're going to repost it, you need to wait at least 8 hours before you do that. So typically people will post super early in the morning and then later in the evening to hit people, they'll repost it. But I only recommend reposting it if the post is actually doing well. If the post isn't really doing that well, like I don't recommend reposting it because like it just isn't performing well. But if the post is performing well, reposting it will just continuously elevate it to new audiences across the board. So that's just a recommendation, but I don't recommend doing that for every single post that you do because not every single post is going to do well. That just isn't the nature. Like there's very, 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 very few people that have a post that does well every single time. And the only people that have that are people that literally that all they do is LinkedIn, right? So obviously they're here all day long and that's how it works. But for most people, that just isn't going to be the scenario.
Well, and I think that brings up a really great point that we didn't touch on yet, Morgan, and that's this idea of consistency, because part of building the brand and your point of view and having that human element is that you're consistently out there. And so, not every post is going to be a home run, but if you're there and you're showing up every week and you're engaging with your prospects and your customers' posts, you're providing input and feedback, it doesn't matter if every post is a home run or not. Like they're just not going to be, right, for whatever reasons. But that's okay because you're consistently there. And so I set an objective for myself, and it's actually in my OKRs, is that I have to have at least one LinkedIn post a week. Sometimes I overachieve that and I'll get a couple, but like I set a goal that I knew I could hit on a consistent basis every single week. And I think that's where that building your brand and your persona comes in, is that showing up day in and day out, not that you sporadically have some really great post or what have you. And it takes discipline to do that, and do it in an authentic way.
And doing an authentic way is key because you want to show up in the right ways because you don't know who's watching. And I think that's, I got 2 points here. And that first point is being consistent, and being consistently there is really important than overthinking it and just not being there at all. So showing up and being consistent is a part of it, because even if a post gets 10 likes, that obviously isn't, you're gonna be like, oh, this isn't the greatest. But you also don't know who saw
Yeah.
that post. Like that 10 like post could lead to something really big. I've had posts that have like really no visibility on them, but like 1 or 2 people that were actually like decision makers or people I wanted to work with were like, that's the post I was looking for. I was like, oh, like I didn't know that, right? But like you don't know who's lurking or seeing what's going on. And I think also for number 2, you said you have an OKR. Does your sales team have an OKR to post as well?
No, but I now am. Thanks for calling that out, Morgan.
No, I was just curious.
But
I was like,
no. No, but I think that is a great. I will likely do that. I have My team is generally pretty good
Yeah.
about posting and posting in authentic ways because it's part of our culture. But I think it would be a great OKR to roll out to me. So next time you ask me that, I'm
Yeah.
going to say yes. Yes,
I
I do.
love it. I love it. looking forward to hearing the results from that. So we have like very few minutes left with Kathleen, and if you have any lasting questions, put them in the chat. Otherwise, like you said your piece. My last question to you,
Yeah.
Kathleen, is okay. We've talked all about AI. We know AI is here. There's no really way of getting out of it. Like it's here, right? So you have to just accept that. But obviously, you want to be more human
Yeah.
in the ways that we go about and sell and things of that nature. So this is going to be a very interesting question. I'm just curious how you answer it. How can people focus on being more relatable, human in how they reach out, and not get too sucked into taking everything we talked about today, going crazy with AI, going crazy in ChatGPT, and actually lose their voice as a whole as a seller?
So I think the key is that you have to think about yourself and your unique point of view as that human differentiator. And when you post something, if it has a purpose, it has value, um, it has a very human element to it, and so part of that human element is not just sunshine and roses and everything's great, but sharing a challenge, sharing a failure. Like, sometimes we like to think that humans don't have flaws or mistakes or we don't fail, and frankly, we learn more from failures than we do not. So
Mhm.
so, making sure that you bring that element to it and, you know, challenge yourself to, and I'll throw this out there to everybody, challenge yourself to post something, next week that reflects you, reflects your voice, and something that provides some helpful insights to the audience. When you do that, it's going to come across as very human and it's going to engage your audience.
Awesome. Well, Kathleen, thank you so much for your time. I'm assuming where people can find you on LinkedIn, but where else, if people have questions, can they reach out?
Yeah. So LinkedIn is probably the best. I will admit I'm very remiss in my X following, but I am there as well. So I would say LinkedIn is the best way to reach me. I am very good about staying on top of that. Happy to engage. Follow me, give me some feedback. Let me know. Do you think my posts are good and authentic or not? Feel free to challenge me on that. Send me a personal chat. Happy to get those. And if I can be of assistance, don't hesitate to reach out.
Awesome. Well, Kathleen, thanks so much for your time. Everyone else, thanks so much.